Hey, welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey, and we got a special guest for you today. This is going to be great. I do want to do the homework off the top because we've had a lot of, just a killer lineup of guests here recently, including Lieutenant Governor candidate John Rogers the other day. Always a pleasure talking to John. I don't know if you guys saw, but he just got endorsed by Governor Scott and our previous two governors, so that was super cool to see. Patrick McNeil, who played one of the skids on Letterkenny. Love Letterkenny, man. Dr. Ian Oswald from Abstracts, who's doing some interesting cannabis research out there in California. Of course, Malcolm McKinnon, former editor-in-chief for High Times. Micah Khan, who did the zombie wedding. I got to watch that the other night. Nice work, Micah. And let's see, coming up, we got on Tuesday, I got Marty Rollins. I think I got the book here. The book is Flying High, the Great Cannabis Caper. Super excited to talk to Marty. Then on Sunday, I got my man Dustin Byerly, said one. This is going to be a fun one with Dustin. Always a pleasure chopping it up. And that's pretty much it till the 24th. And then I got Talvin White, who's out in Chicago. We're going to see what he's doing. He's trying to start a couple of businesses out there. Cool. And I see we got 5 people in here. Wow, that could be a record. My guest today, guys, I'm going to keep the intro short and sweet, and we're going to get right into it. She is the owner of the Miss Lyndonville Diner in Lyndonville. Please welcome to the show, Janet Gray Burnor. Janet, thanks for being here.
Hi, Caleb. Thanks for having me. I was happy you didn't bail on me after I had to reschedule twice. I felt bad.
Absolutely not. I was going to hang it in there until we got this done. So it's my pleasure.
Great.
Before we do anything serious, can we do a 5-minute life story?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I just to get the video in there. Yep, go right ahead.
Okay, 5-minute life story. Oh my goodness. Born and raised in Ohio, farm country. My town had a population of 300 people, oldest of 10 kids, 5 girls, 5 boys. Loved childhood, loved high school, delayed college because I got in a fender bender car accident and actually didn't complete my degree until 25 years later. But because I felt I needed money at that stage in life, I started working for Frisch's Big Boy in Toledo. And that's where I met my husband. He was going through a divorce in Massachusetts and chose Toledo Frisch's as his next work opportunity. We were there, but then he had 3 kids in Massachusetts and wanted to get back to New England. So he came back, decided to get back into the restaurant business. We actually found Lyndonville because of a telephone book that had a cover of Lake Willoughby. And Ashley's father was born up in Canaan, Vermont. And so he would come up all throughout childhood. I always wanted to live in Vermont, but didn't know how we could make a living here. And that decision to come up and check out the Northeast Kingdom led to him taking a job as a meat cutter to get recognized for some crazy specific request he made. Took a job at Murray's Meats, found out the Rustic restaurant was going up for sale or lease. And at that time it was called the Rustic. When it first came into town in 1951, the diner was known as the Miss Lynn Diner. But at that time it was the Rustic, and we were one of many people who were trying to get that location. But the owner at the time chose us because he thought we could, he thought we knew what we were doing. And we were very fortunate to get that opportunity. And that was 46 years ago. And how in the world do I put 73 years in 5 minutes?
Well, that's a great start. So let me, before we go any further, I want to just stop you for a second and ask you what it's like growing up in a family with that many siblings.
You know, I loved it. It was just fabulous. And on top of it all, you know, it was just so balanced with 5 boys, 5 girls. And we had a handicapped sister that brought an element into our lives that I think was just life altering. Very protective of Annette. Lived in a small community, raised Catholic. I always said that that's where I learned to get organized, give orders, and get things done, because my mother, I swear, was in La La Land for a lot of the years. And whenever there was a trauma, I was the one that usually had to deal, being the oldest. And it was all good. I had grandparents, both sets of grandparents were in different directions, like a mile down one road, 2 miles down another road. So we just grew up with a lot of family all around.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Cool. Now, guys, I see there's 5 of you watching. I want to get through some of the background here, and then I'm hoping I bet my mom's one of those. I'm hoping there are some people that are going to share some stories with us. For the rest of this, Janet, I'm going to put you over here in the big box. So cool. So could you just walk us through, like, let's go through the whole history. You said it started quite some time ago, but I'm wondering if you can just give us a detailed history of the diner.
Okay, yeah. Well, it was, like I said, 1977 when we moved into the area, and started the diner in 1978. And I was a nervous wreck because I thought, we didn't own our own business before. We had, had experience, but Ashley was the one who said, we are going to stand here and do what we know how to do, and it will come. And it really did. I mean, to begin with, it was truly a truck stop. It just had the main part of the diner. The restrooms were outside down a walkway. It was a pretty rough building and very small. We had one employee. I should say we had one full-time employee, one part-time employee. Both we inherited from the previous owner, and they were wonderful. They both stayed with us for a long time. And I started in the dining room. Ashley started in the kitchen, and we just created, out of necessity and fear and listening to customers, just began. But the real turning point was when Vermont Life, one day when I was working out there, Vermont Life came in and said, I'm a photographer from Vermont Life. I'd like to take some pictures because we'd like to do an article on you. And that was a showstopper. That really changed everything. Women didn't come into the diner in the very beginning because it was,
you mentioned that. You said it was mostly men that were coming in.
Yes. And, growing up in Ohio, I never waved at truckers, but one time when I got into the diner, one of my customers said, well, what's the matter with you? Are you stuck up? And I realized, he said, I waved at you yesterday. And the customers educated me in the beginning about what they expected, what they thought, what they felt. And it was just an amazing back and forth. But that article in Vermont Life really introduced us to, a bigger customer base, and really started things off with that, where people came in and checked out what we were doing and they liked it. It was all about incredible customer service, fast food, consistent. I think we've proved to be trustworthy over the decades. I mean, 46 years of doing what we do, and it's expanded. It seemed like it expanded kind of slowly in the beginning, but then pretty much ramped up.
How did Vermont Life find you guys? Was there anything particular that drew them out there?
That's a really good question. The article was the best in Vermont. Oh, I should have dug out a copy of that. But it was a special article. I should say a special magazine edition that they were doing that was about the best in Vermont. And Ben and Jerry's was in that article, and Green Mountain Coffee Roasters were in there. There was like the best fishing stream. Everything was the best of something. And they put us in there as the best place to get pie for breakfast. And it was this full page ad of me holding a strawberry pie. There's a copy of it. And, we've got a lot of history in the diner on the walls. And it was just an article starting with the Robert Frost poem, and just told the story of us being there and what we were doing and how we were growing and building. And it was pretty extraordinary.
And then it sounded like you guys maybe like early on had a fire go on.
Yeah.
Tell us about that a little bit, Janet.
Yeah. We got a phone call, and I thought when the phone rang that we overslept because we were expecting a ski team in the diner at like 4:30 in the morning. It was an unusual thing we were doing for a ski team. And when that phone rang, I thought, oh no, we're late. And but it was the fire department saying that the diner was on fire. And what it turned out to be was an electrical fire that started with a fan that was on an extension cord that bound up and overheated. They could tell where the origin of the fire was. And I was confused by that because at the time I said, there's nothing here but the coffee machine and in this fan. Well, the waitress that worked on that side of on that section, she said, well, that fan wasn't working. And I said, well, yes, it should have been. But she felt it on her legs, but she didn't feel it for like a day or whatever the time frame was. And that's what bound up, overheated, and created the fire that I think we were down for 5 months. It happened in January, and we were able to reopen in May to get the construction done. But that it actually turned out to be a fortunate thing in the sense that the owner at the time, I think he felt like I did after the flood. I think he was just done and he wanted to get rid of the place. And so we worked out a way for us to buy it at that time. And then we were totally committed. Before that, we were leasing.
And I think you said, if I recall, that Ashley also had owned a different diner or something.
That was his father. Ashley never owned a business before. He worked for Abdow's Big Boy in Massachusetts and then Frisch's out in Ohio. But his father was a partner in the Miss Florence Diner in Florence, Massachusetts. And we actually have his picture with his two partners in one of the big picture frames on the wall in the diner that tells the history there. So, yeah.
So after the fire, I assume you guys rebuild, redesign, maybe. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did just the basics to get everything up and going. And then the additions started as we grew. Because to begin with, it was just what we call section 1 and 2, the main part of the diner that has the bowed ceiling, the curved ceiling, and just not back very far. And then we put an addition on the kitchen. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 additions on the kitchen, and then the addition on the side of the building that added 2 more sections. And at one time we had the restrooms out in that area too, but we didn't like that, so we put on the front curved addition into the main part. And then after, at some point, we went up and put office space and storage space above. So we, all in all, we had 7 different additions that went on and around. Yeah.
And if I recall, I mean, I think my earliest experiences of the diner, there used to be a smoking section way back in the day.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. I had forgotten that. Oh, yeah. It took a while before we were able to go smoke free in there. It was a social thing at the time, right? It didn't happen overnight.
I want to sneak a couple comments in. This is my mom here.
Oh,
she said, first, let me say we're all going to miss the diner so much. It is our go-to place for any occasion. I want to thank you for decades of making us feel like family.
Oh, thank you so much. Because I could get teary on that, because it's the family aspect that is so important, because it always feels like family in there with the customers and the people who work there, and just I truly believe there's something very special about the diner, and it starts the moment you walk in the door with a certain energy, a certain atmosphere. And, that's all created by the staff. But then, of course, you've got to have the excellent food, and you can't be good part of the time. We have to be good all the time. And believe me, there's no such thing as perfection. We have our problems in there. I mean, we have had horrors that can happen. But because of the system as it evolved, there could be checks and double checks where we could catch things before the customer was aware. That was always our goal. Don't let the customer know we're struggling with this. But thank you. What is your mother's name?
Sue Russell.
Sue, thank you so much for your comments.
It used to be Teskey, but yeah, it's Russell now.
That's Sue.
And this is my sister here, Siobhan Schufelt. 45 years of life, and there's not a time in my life that I can't remember that doesn't involve the diner in some way. There's 5 degrees of separation between every major event in my life and the diner. Um,
Oh,
Saturday morning, Dylan welcoming us with our coffee and knowing our order has always made our day.
yes. Oh, absolutely. I totally get that. We have had customers um, bring their newborn babies from the hospital in to introduce
Ah.
to staff. So I'm so happy to hear that that you can tell personal stories about uh, those kinds of interactions because I
Mm.
get that.
The staff are amazing. Here's my mom again. The staff are amazing. They remember what kind of coffee you like and have it on the table almost before you sit down.
Yes, and also sometimes my manager in the back, if he would see a certain customer walking across the parking lot, he would start their order, have it in the window, so that when they sat down, their food would be there.
Mm.
So everybody was always trying to do those kinds of special things um, to just as a normal way of just being out there. You know.
And I noticed one thing, Janet, a lot of restaurants, and I've worked in the, industry for close to a decade now. And I've noticed that a lot of restaurants, there's a ton of turnover, but I feel like some of your employees work there for most of my life. How do you keep your
Yeah.
employees on board like that?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good question. And in 46 years, there are different groups that have what I do with it in my head is, and the fact is that they actually kind of age out, meaning it's hard physical work. And when you reach a certain age in the dining room, people just don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I'm getting
And
close.
so, yeah. What's that?
I'm getting close.
Oh, well, it happens, it's hard on the body, but how do we keep people? Oh, I think there's a mutual respect. It's got to be a fit to start with, though. It's got to be a fit between us and the people who work there. They have to buy into our system, and they have to understand what the goals are, what our customer service procedure is, the ways in which we do things in the dining room, and the ways in which we do things in the kitchen. We don't change those systems. They develop slowly over time, and I always like to encourage people to come up with new ideas, maybe new menu items that we can run for specials. I don't ever try to like squelch people's creativity and things, but many times I have to say, we're not reinventing the wheel here. When this has happened before, and this is how we chose to deal with it. But I think it's those relationships, the ways that we communicate, the trust, the mutual respect. People can't be a group until they learn to resolve conflict. That's just textbook psychology stuff. And when conflict would happen, which it always would, for one reason or another, it was the ways in which we navigated that. I never liked to be wrong about hiring somebody. And so we tried real hard to teach our systems and have it be received and understood. The goal was always to get whoever was working in the dining room or whoever was working in the kitchen to be doing everything the way either I would be doing it or Ashley would be doing it, because that's where it started. And to convey that information has to land on people who are willing and able to do it. And I know it's tough. But I also know we've got an alumni of people that are very grateful for their experiences at the diner, on the work end of things. I have people say, I wish my colleagues would have worked at the diner. They don't have the work ethic, different things that
It's hard.
goes
It's
with it.
it's it's bang 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 service, very fast.
Yes.
And a lot of times, like on the weekends when I'm coming in for my hangover breakfast, it's a long line out the door, and
Yeah.
there's no time, there's no breaks. It's like it's go go go.
Yes,
That's
that's
not
right.
for everybody, from what I've learned.
That's right. And it doesn't make somebody a bad person because they can't do it. And it doesn't make us bad because that's what we need. That's why I say it really has to start with a fit. And I've had people apply, and I'll just say, I can't hire you because I would be setting you up for failure. You're either too young, or I really try to be open and honest and direct about, why I do what I do kind of thing. And I don't like to Well, for one thing, it costs time and money when you make a mistake hiring somebody. You wasted all that time to get nowhere. And it's got to work for the staff. It's got to work. The hours have to work. The procedures have to work. Their personality has to be okay to do it all. So it's not easy. But if we have that fit, we're good. And then they can make good money. They make good tips. And this, even in the back, there's a whole different pay structure for the back of the house. And we don't pool tips there, never have. But those guys take on an incredible work ethic and pride and buy into the system too. My manager, who I couldn't have done a day without, started as a dish guy at 16 years old.
Hey.
Ashley hired him, and he said he is the most talented person that he's ever worked with, because it was like his brain was split and each hand could be doing something different. So I mean, he can handle it. So, but yeah, I could talk on and on about the people, because if we didn't have the staff to be able, it wouldn't matter how clever we are in developing these systems and procedures if they couldn't be, done the same way every time.
Well, and Siobhan, I see your question here. I'm going to save that one for the end, which is on my list also. But I want to slip this one in for my mom here. Said, Dylan was a willing participant, helping me to pay someone's bill in secret. He would take my money and pay the bill without telling them. It put so many smiles on faces.
Oh, yes. That is not surprising. Dylan, he's my firstborn grandson, and he's truly amazing. And he actually took a job with Cisco just shortly before the fire. So, we miss him dearly, but then it turned out fine. But one time they started that paying it forward type of thing that you just described. And that went on for, I think, almost 5 hours with the way, I think Janet Powers was responsible for that particular one. But Dylan had quite the following in there. He was very special. He's got a sense of humor, and he can just pull it off. He reminds me a lot of Ashley in terms of his sense of humor.
Aw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to do maybe some of the sad stuff here, Janet, which I'm not looking forward to, but
it's okay.
And I know the flooding really hurt you guys. I'm wondering what happened last year, if anything, and then maybe we could talk about what happened this year as well.
When you say last year
we had some really bad flooding. I don't know if you guys were affected by that at all.
No, we were not. We were affected by COVID. COVID was.
Tell us about that, please. Yeah.
I forgot about COVID. Yeah, that was tough. We were closed for 5 months because it got to the point where, we were trying different things and following all the guidelines and all, and then we were doing just takeout, and the staff was taking the takeout orders out to the cars, and people were handing them their trash. And I mean, the whole thing was just not good. It wasn't good for anyone. So we finally made the decision just to close, and we were closed for 5 months. And when we came back, that's when we changed the hours to just breakfast and lunch, 6 days a week kind of thing. So that was a rough period, but we were not affected by the flooding the year before. In fact, in the 46 years that we've been there, there were either 3 or 4 previous floods that only ever got into the dry stock room. The lower dry stock was all cement walls up, and we'd raise things and it'd make a mess back there, but it was not devastating because it never got into the kitchen or got into the dining room. But this one did. In fact, we had customers in there when the water started to come up, and my manager's calling me at like 5:30 in the morning, and it's like, get people out of there. You have to get people out. And he did. And there was one party that they thought they could finish their breakfast. When I went in there, I think it was the next day or after the water receded, there were still plates of food on the table, and, the drinks, and you could tell where the customers just left things and went. But then when Travis, the manager, was trying to get everything closed down and locked up, he got stuck in there. And so he was able to get pictures of the inside, which we would have never had. And those pictures were pretty hard to look at. But then he was talking to me on the phone, and he actually went up on the building. He says, "I'm fine. I'm up on the building having a sandwich," and talking to the kayakers going by. So, I mean, it was scary. It took a while to, get people out, but then, and it took a while for him to be able to get out. But then I think it was the next day when my husband and I drove down and looked at it, and it was like shock and denial all at once. Like the first thing was like, well, maybe when it all dries out, we can just shampoo the rugs and we're good to go. That was like one of the first thoughts on this. Can't be as bad as it seems. And as it turned out, I mean, it was so bad in the sense that wherever the floodwaters hit, they had to do what they call flood cuts, and you had to tear everything out and sanitize, special treatment. And I mean, there was a lot to go through. It was a very big learning experience, but I felt lucky to be able to get a company that could do the work to start. I mean, when I placed the phone call to the time somebody was in there getting started was 2 hours. It was absolutely incredible that they were able to do what needed to be done. And we just started tearing it apart, getting down to the dirt.
I was curious about like stuff like flood insurance. I don't know if you know how any of that works, but did you guys have anything like that?
No flood insurance. Long ago, Ashley decided that, the cost of flood insurance based on the need to have it, we'll take our chances. And it worked for, like I said, 3 or 4 floods, and that didn't do any damage. So this was not, there was absolutely no insurance money, but my accounting firm that we've had for 30 plus years wanted to do something to help. And they were willing to come and shovel or do anything. And I said, we don't need any of that, but if you watch for whatever they're going to do out there in terms of programs, FEMA or whatever, because I don't like that stuff, paperwork and things, so they kept their eyes open, and they did a lot of did all the work for us, meaning submitting all the information. And we actually did get a grant, which I didn't expect. And I was shocked by, because I had heard of people that went through the flood the year before and they didn't get anything. So, but this was a special program designed for businesses, and it ended up covering like maybe 20%, which was somewhere between 20 and 30%. That was
better
helpful.
than nothing. Yeah.
Better than nothing. Absolutely. Almost nothing, but better than nothing. Yeah.
And if I recall also, one thing I really thought was cool, I think you said you paid your employees for a couple of weeks after you shut down.
Yeah. 2 weeks. Yeah, I did. I mean, it was just a shock and devastating to everybody, and everybody was reeling. And that was something that I could do right, one of the first decisions made. So yeah, that was not enough, but it was kind of a bridge to get all the unemployment stuff going. But people have, they're all functioning and have taken jobs. I was hoping that a buyer would come real quick and then everybody could just go back to work. But, it took so long to get the place rebuilt. I mean, the builders were in there for over 2 months. It's only been a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And have you got all the damages repaired, Janet?
Yes. It looks great. In fact, I mean, there were things that were a problem that we didn't even realize, because I mean, we had never tore the floors out down to the dirt. I mean, it's had like a dirt foundation under there, except for the footings and piers. And we rebuilt the heating system, the new ductwork and new vents, and, shored up, leveled some floors. I mean, those guys did a lot. In fact, Mike John is the one who did the work, him and his crew. And he said when he first walked in there and started looking around, he just almost wanted to turn around and walk out. It was just such a big job, such a mess, But everywhere that he made a flood cut had to be tore out. So we had to go up to like chair rail height all around, to get everything out and get it treat under the building. I wanted to be able to stand in front of anybody and say, we fixed everything the flood damaged and more. And that is the truth. So
now, I got a couple more here, and I'm going to open it up for questions. Hopefully, if there's 4 people watching, if you guys have questions, and Siobhan and Mom, I see your questions there. But you mentioned this earlier. You guys always had pictures hanging up in the front of some of the history and some of the folks who have visited your restaurant. I was wondering if maybe there was some like favorite memories that you had in there, and then maybe I'll share some of mine. But yeah, it looks like you've had some elected officials in there and some pretty cool people pass through.
Oh my gosh, I wish I would have had the celebrities sign a book that started right in the beginning, because way back when Catamount Arts was first, when Jay Craven was starting Catamount Arts and bringing all kinds of entertainment into the area, we were, very supportive of that. And I mean, we had so many different celebrities in the building, BB King, Johnny Cash, I mean, the Oak Ridge Boys. If I would have put some thought into that, I probably could have made a pretty extensive list for you.
Johnny Cash, huh?
But yeah, so it's just incredible when whoever Catamount brought in, that they ended up for at least one meal in the diner. So that's my memory.
That's awesome. And I know Catamount Arts has done it. It's one of my favorite organizations in the area here, just doing some fantastic work. Like I did a couple of comedy shows there. It was super fun.
Yes. Oh my gosh, they really brought a lot into our area. And then with the Fenton Chester Ice Arena that could be used as a venue, the lot went on way back then. Yeah, I mean, one of the special memories was when the Oak Ridge Boys were there, and just to be sitting in one of the first couple rows of the concert and then have them come in. It was just fun, just fun.
We've had a couple of cool people come through restaurants I work at. It's always a pleasure, like having someone like that just come through your restaurant, like,
oh yeah, Rachel Ray was supposedly in the dining room one day, but I didn't see her. And Madeline Coonan was, in fact, when she was governor and it was campaigning, there was a picture on the front page of the paper of me serving her. That was a memory. So I don't know. I should have put some more thought into that one.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
Oh, no worries. 46 years of memories. There's a lot that's happened in 46 years, and I just hope I don't get it screwed up here.
And here, maybe I'm going to ask you, this is kind of a silly question. My mom says number 10 all day. I'm going to say a number 21, a skillet breakfast was my jam. What would be your ideal meal if you were ordering from yourself, Janet?
Oh, the 22 was my favorite. That was the corned beef hash with 2 eggs and a corn muffin. And the kitchen always knew to make my corned beef hash crispy on the grill and the corn muffin well done. And I always asked for a little side of Vermont syrup with it. But when we first started, we only had 8 numbers, 1 through 8. And then it went 1 through 12. And then it went up to 16. And then it ended it with 37. So the whole breakfast menu definitely evolved over time.
And did you guys ever use fake maple syrup, or are you guys?
In the very beginning, we had both, and we charged extra for the Vermont syrup. If someone wanted Vermont syrup, I think it was 25 cents at one point and went up to 40 cents at one point. And then we just only served the Vermont syrup, and people had to ask for the regular, so that changed over time too. In fact, I don't know, this is not really a very pleasant story, but one time it was, there was a man that was taking food out of the dumpster, and I went out there and I said, you can't do that. You have to come in, and so he came in and sat at the counter, and I told him he could order something. Well, that was back when we were charging extra for Vermont syrup, and he ordered pancakes. And when I put the regular syrup down, because we were doing that automatically at that time, he asked me for Vermont syrup instead. And I got it for him, of course. But I remember thinking, boy, you probably shouldn't be too fussy under these circumstances.
Well, my niece is into the fake maple syrup, and I still think she should be charged with a crime for that.
Well, some people don't like the real thing. We take syrup out to Ohio, and there's a lot of my Ohio family. They don't like the pure Vermont syrup.
No shit.
Yep, it's too sweet or too something. They just didn't grow up with it. But
yeah, it's too good. Is what it is.
Yeah.
Here's Siobhan. number 8 over easy English muffin, not toast. The number 8,
Yes. Yes.
number 8 was
Yes.
my backup.
Yeah. Oh, I know. We used to say that the college woke up about 10 o'clock in the morning, and we would get hit with the college crowd. And
Well, and that's one thing I was also going to ask you too, because it seemed like the diner always was like a melting pot. Like you would have the old farmers there super early in the morning, and then you would have the college kids, and you've got the whole town kind of coming together. And I've certainly got some weird looks going in there, but no one was ever mean to me. They're just like, a kid looks like he had a rough night. But yeah, could you tell us about that a little bit, because you got everybody in there, Janet?
Oh, I know, that's so true. And you know what, I think a lot of that was because we were so small. We were all up close and personal. There was no room between the tables, between us and the customers, and the different people that come in general, because it was such a good atmosphere with a lot of energy and a lot of good things going on. People were happy. They were just in a good mood in there, and they wanted to be helpful. So if there was a tourist asking directions of someone and somebody overheard them, they just pipe right up and just say, something to be helpful. And it was truly amazing. We used to say that whatever happened outside of the diner it happened inside the diner too, because people would come together to kind of process the whole thing, and it was definitely a reflection of our community, a reflection of the people who lived there, the people who passed through. I mean, sometimes when I was out there working a section in the very beginning, you could tell the difference between a tourist and a local person. And I remember thinking, they think we don't know what we're doing up here. I always felt challenged by that. And I thought by the time we just did our thing, they were comfortable, they were happy. I mean, I had people stopping while we were under construction after the flood and tell me stories that this one woman in particular said, I just came up from Massachusetts. This first time I brought my boyfriend up. I've been coming up with my family since I was a child. So it was lots of years of relationships, not just with the locals, but tourists that used us as a stopping place in their travels. They would make a point to stop. And I do think that a lot of it was just the way we could be together out there, because some restaurants you go into, you barely see the staff because they're the waitress area or work area is at a distance, but nothing's at a distance in the diner. We really shrunk the space, and it's right there.
No, and you can see right into the kitchen.
Yes absolutely.
I think you also said one time you had an issue with someone who was like super loud, which I've had an issue with at some restaurants because my voice travels. And when you work in an environment like that where you can see right into the kitchen, I imagine that could get a little weird because sometimes some profanities are laid out in the back of a restaurant.
Oh yes, it's and we right from the start, we didn't have the luxury of enduring that. So if I was in the dining room and Ashley was back in the kitchen, and he could get fired up, because I remember going back there one time, standing in front of him and saying, "You need to stop. Everybody's afraid to even get anywhere near you. Just stop." and then another time, the manager, we used to have muffins on the counter under a dome, and when a ticket would go in with a muffin order, this wait staff person should put the muffin in the window. Well, if it was forgotten too many times, it was very frustrating for the kitchen, understandably so. But he came out around the cook came out, and he grabbed that muffin, he slammed that dome down, and I followed him right back into the kitchen. And because we couldn't have we didn't have the luxury of being overly emotional. And I've had to stand in front of people and say, stop talking, just in the back, stop talking.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I've heard that myself a few times in a restaurant. You guys shut up.
Yeah, I grew up, my father never let us say shut up. I couldn't say shut up.
Well,
So I had to say, stop talking.
well, yep, same thing.
Well, with a certain look associated, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, cool. My mom here props all the cooks. Food was always fast, hot, and
Mm,
delicious. I honestly don't
yes.
know how they kept up.
Yes. Oh, I know. It really takes a lot. It takes teamwork. It takes being able to silently work side by side. We don't talk about stuff back there. And you probably noticed in the dining room too, they don't, we don't talk to each other in a loud way. But because especially in the kitchen, they have to be able to work as a team and work the system the way it was designed with no breakdowns. And that requires effort of everybody in every position in the back of the house, from the dish guy to the prep guy to the window guy to the everybody. And I remember this one time in particular, we were really fighting it, and I was at the hand sink washing my hands, and my manager's there too, and all of a sudden I thought of something and I went, uh-oh. And he goes, no uh-ohs. Couldn't handle any uh-ohs because we needed to just keep doing it. But it takes skill, it takes an emotional intelligence, it takes trust in the people around you, it takes the challenge of it. It would feel really good when we met the challenge.
Mm. And you mentioned the dish guy, and I feel like I want to shout out to all the dishwashers out there, because I feel like dishwashing is a very unappreciated job, but it's really one of the most important jobs in the restaurant, if you ask me.
Oh, it absolutely is. And our guys were long term, and everyone. We would have part-time dish guys come in, and every once in a while they would try to call it a dish pit, and I'm like, no, you do not call this is not a dish pit, because they were as deserving and worthy of respect as anybody else in the back of the house. There is no doubt. And if I ever had any newbie coming in and feel like something was like not their job, we would deal with that too. Because if the dish guy's buried, we get back there and help them. If I would be up on the line and something would happen and I had to ask for something, or anybody had to ask, they were right. The dish guy he'd be right there to help and back you up. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. I have such respect and love for those guys.
Me too.
Yeah.
It can be a thankless job, and it's so important. Like, without a dishwasher, good luck
Yeah.
running a restaurant.
Oh, I know. And the other thing about the back of the house too that I think was helpful to us is the way everything was all open. It wasn't like they were segregated in their own special little space. We were all there, we were all a team, and we understood the pressures that everybody was going through. And if somebody wasn't willing to get out of their territory to help, then they didn't make it around there. They didn't last.
I'm gonna slap your logo up. I'm here
Oh.
with Janet Gray Burnor from the Miss Lyndonville Diner. And Janet, I wanted to save the last part of this interview to ask you about the future. My sister has a question here called she says, if the diner is for sale, how will you decide who to sell it to? Will it be someone who will keep up the tradition and reopen? And certainly I think a lot of the people that I grew up with, people from the area, are wondering the same thing. And, I'd love to hear your thoughts on I know you said you're thinking about retiring. You've done a good job. Thank you for your service, Janet. But, what are you thinking for the future here?
Yeah. Oh, what I want is someone who really gets it, someone who can understand more than just running a restaurant. I feel so passionately about just hopefully someone will take what we're doing and make it their own, but slowly. Just if somebody could embrace the menu, embrace the systems, and be willing to have that be their starting point, so that when people came in, it was all familiar. And word of mouth advertising would work in their favor. If somebody comes in and just, I had somebody stand in front of me and say, I heard the diner sold and it's going to be a sports bar. What? Nobody has asked me about that. So, there could be kind of crazy rumors around there, but my hope is that they just really understand that I would love somebody that grew up with the diner, knows the diner, experienced it themselves. If it was somebody, it really needs strong leadership in the dining room. It needs strong leadership in the kitchen. It can't be someone who just thinks they can buy a restaurant and just kind of, be a manager. And I mean, we work side by side in the trenches all the time with everybody, always. And, the restaurant business is tough. It's a nickel dime penny business. So you have to be able to make all parts work. And I'm just really hopeful that someone comes along and will at least start with something similar to what we've done. That could be a pipe dream, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Let me ask this question from Siobhan. Is there any chance you'll open it up for one last breakfast?
Oh, no, I can't. I'm sorry. We have no inventory because, all the food, of course, everything is just gone. And it would take a lot to get it up and going again. And that's when I sat in that dining room that night and said, I think I'm done. I thought that's got to be somebody else has to do it because I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm lucky I could do what I've done so far.
Here's Mom again. Can't thank you and your entire staff enough for all the memories. You've spread love through food and warm atmosphere, and we can only hope someone will continue the tradition.
Yes. It's better said than I could ever put it. Exactly. And thank you. I appreciate, the acknowledgement of it all. I really do.
Guys,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think I'd like your mom and sister a lot.
I think so as well. And they're close by. Maybe you've probably met them before. I'd be amazed. Everyone knows my mom.
Yes. Well, yes.
And I see there's 6 of you guys up there. I'm getting towards the end of my questions. If any of you guys have questions, now's the time to throw them in there for Janet. I'm really also curious, and I've spoken to a couple of people that were interested in maybe finding a group of investors to buy the diner. And I feel like maybe the answer is yes, but I mean, if we could find a group of local investors that grew up in the area, is that someone you'd be willing to sell the restaurant to?
I would sell the restaurant to, that would be an ideal situation. It certainly would. Because like I said, I would love for the next owners to really know and understand and have a history with them, with the place themselves. That would be a gift for sure. And I would consider absolutely any serious proposal of any sort. I have no preconceived notions here. I've never sold a restaurant like this before. So it's like whatever comes my way, I'll just have to deal with it as it comes.
Okay. Well, Becca Gorell, if you're listening, we're going to have to catch up on this. Cool. So Janet, I'm running out of stuff here. I'm going to slap your logo up again. It's Janet Gray Burnor from the Miss Lyndonville Diner. Now, I always leave a little bit of time at the end for my guests. So if there's anything we missed here that you really want to throw out, or any shameless plugs or shout outs or anything that you have to say, the end of the show is yours. Thank you for being here. And after the end, please stick around for a minute so I can thank you again.
Okay. Well, I didn't give any thought to any kind of final words, but my heart just always goes towards wanting to show gratitude for everything over 46 years, for the customers, the staff. I mean, like I said, there's an alumni that is absolutely incredible. And there's so many people, family and friends and just people that have made the place what it is. And I hesitate to start mentioning any names because I know I would forget someone and hurt somebody's feelings. But every person that ever worked in the diner has my respect and love and gratitude for how they helped us do what we do there. We couldn't have done it without them. And I'm grateful for the relationship with the community. I think that, like I said before, there was mutual trust, mutual respect. The atmosphere in that place was created by the people who worked there and the way they were with the customers. The fact that we were able to do things in a consistent way, I don't know, I'm proud. I really am proud of the legacy, proud of the reputation. Part proud of the stories, because I know how important that place has been to many people over the decades. You know, I've heard a lot, and I'm just grateful. It's been quite a journey. I started at 27 and I chose retirement at 72. And when I looked at those numbers, I thought that's kind of a full circle there. So I don't know. That's where my heart is.
Whoop. Oh, wait, hang on. I'm going to bring myself back up. Wait. Oh, we got one more comment. I'm going to try to sneak this in here.
Yeah.
This isn't. Oh, this is Siobhan. I wasn't prepared to spend the last hour crying, but thank you, Janet, for all the memories and for doing this today. You and your family have shaped our community for so long, and we salute you.
You say it so much better than I ever could. And thank you. Thank you for understanding, and thank you for just sharing all that. It's incredible. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching, Siobhan. Mom, I love you guys. Janet, I want to thank you one more time for being here. I'm going to sign it off, guys. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey. Please stick around for a minute, if you would, please, Janet. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey. Remember, the devil's in the details, and the details are in the fine print.